Who is going to be this year's fantasy breakouts? The ascending players that will take their play into the next level and right into fantasy stardom. Well, here's my personal list of 5 fantasy breakouts heading into 2026. And if you disagree or have a different opinion, well, that's good. We need different opinions in fantasy football. Leave them in the comments. So the first breakout we have here is Parker Washington, who, as far as I know, no direct lineage to one of the founding fathers of our nation, but you never know. Parker, 23andMe. You should try it. Yeah, I know he's been a popular breakout candidate for the last few months. I'm not exactly breaking new ground here, but I've been on this camp since last season, and I'm not stopping anytime soon. I remember how good he was last year. It was mostly in the second half of the season, but especially the last month of the year. I think the last 3 weeks, he was a top 10 receiver in the last 3 weeks of the year and did very good in the postseason as well. Now, of course, in getting these opportunities, a little luck was involved. The wide receiver room was getting hit with injuries. Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr. was in and out of the lineup. Even De'Ami Brown was affected. That's why they went out and traded for Jacoby Myers midseason, because they needed the firepower, because they saw themselves as an ascending team, a playoff team. But I think even with that, Parker Washington took the most of those opportunities. He stood out among the pack. And I think even going into this season with all 4 receivers still there, I think he still stands out to this point. I think Jacoby Myers is kind of slotted in as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. We kind of know what he is. Travis Hunter's probably going to be more of a bring in, take out sort of gadget player. Maybe he'll be used more for defense. And I think Brian Thomas Jr. might have a better season than he did certainly last year, but I still see him as more of a deep ball threat rather than the true number 1. I don't even know if there's necessarily going to be a number 1, but I think Parker Washington has the best chance of anyone to do that on this team. I mean, clearly the team loves him. Clearly Liam Cohen has a big role for him in this offense, and he knows he's probably going to do very well. That's why one of the biggest things this offseason they've been trying to do is sign Parker Washington to an extension. They want to give this guy more money now because he's going to be worth a heck of a lot more at the end of the season. In fact, take a look back at Liam Cohen's previous offenses when he was offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams. When he was the offensive coordinator, the slot receivers on both those teams were Chris Godwin and Cooper Kupp. Keep track of that, because both of these guys, unfortunately, both had season-ending injuries around the midpoint of the year, maybe a little bit beyond that. But up to that point, before they got their injuries in their separate seasons where he was the offensive coordinator, I know this is a lot of information, but keep up with me. They were both the number 1 wide receivers in fantasy. Not top 10, not top 5, the number 1. Cooper Kupp, you would expect that. He was coming off a wide receiver 1 season, but Chris Godwin has never been in that scenario before. He has never been anywhere that high then and that high since. And who knows, maybe there's not going to be like a true wide receiver 1 of this team for fantasy. Maybe the offense is going to be too spread out. They're going to spread the ball around too much to too many different guys. There are a lot of mouths to feed in this offense, but I think if anyone is capable of doing it, I think Parker Washington has the best chance. And it's very rare that you can draft a guy in the 5th round or the 6th round and he could be a genuine top 10 receiver of this season. He is someone with a good floor, but a very, very high ceiling. I don't know if he's going to be the number 1 receiver, but it's not unfair to say he could have a true breakout season. Which leads perfectly into my next breakout candidate of the same team, Trevor Lawrence. And I know a lot of people will already say, well, didn't he have a breakout last year? He ended the season as the QB4. Yes, that is absolutely true. You can consider that a breakout season, but he's still not being drafted this year like the breakout happened. He is still being drafted number 10 or sometimes outside of the top 10, barely as a starting quarterback, as a QB1. If any player is capable of having a second consecutive breakout season, it's probably going to be Trevor Lawrence in this offense. And there are a few reasons for that. One of the reasons is the depth. The depth of this offense is so good, especially at wide receiver. Even if you don't believe there's going to be one top 10 wide receiver 1 type player on this team, all of them provide something different. They all provide their own value. Brian Thomas is going to be better. Jacoby Myers is going to be a solid asset. Parker Washington is going to be great. And Travis Hunter, when you bring him for gadget plays, he is electric. And they're not the only ones. You have a strong setup for a run game with players that are a bit underrated and maybe underproven, but coming out of this season, I think they can be very great in the run game. Bashal Tutin could have been another guy considered for a breakout, but I don't want this to just be a Jaguars list. Chris Rodriguez is a good runner as well. Brenton Strange, I really like him as a sleeper tight end. I'd like him more if there weren't so many weapons. And Trevor Lawrence was amazing in the second half of last year. If you took his second half performance and layered it onto the first half of the season, he would have been QB1, and it wouldn't have been a question about it. He would have been the #1 quarterback. I'm not saying that he's going to do that again. To say someone can repeat the level of success that he had, where he was a top 5 QB every single week, pretty much going into the end of the season, that's unsustainable. That likely won't happen. But it's not out of the possibility to be like, well, if he took just a step down, but kept that consistently throughout the year, he'll be right back there again. He'll be a top 5 quarterback this season, and people will have underdrafted him again. I am all in on Trevor Lawrence this season. I am all in on this super fun, super exciting offense. I think it's a smart move. I think it's a safe move. I think it's so safe, in fact, that I will dive in head first, no helmet. That's how safe I feel about this pick. Kenneth Walker is my breakout candidate. I have been following Kenneth Walker closely for years. As a Seahawks fan, I've been watching him closer than probably most fans of Kenneth Walker. And I think he's one of the most top to bottom talented running backs in the NFL that has just been marred by bad timing, a bad O-line, bad situations, and bad injuries. A lot of bad luck. But I think luck is on his side because now he found this perfect team, which is a perfect marriage of his skills and what the team needs of him. This team needs a bell cow running back. They need someone that they can give the ball 15 to 20 times a game and fully rely on him, especially now because Patrick Mahomes' leg is made of Swiss cheese at this point. So he's going to be handing the ball off a lot for the first few weeks because he's trying to protect himself. They should fully utilize him as a runner and as a passer. Andy Reid even came out that he said he was shocked at how good of a pass catcher he was, which is no shock to me. I've seen it for years in Seattle, even though we never fully utilized it to its potential. We always acknowledged how good of a pass catcher he was. The only problem with Kenneth Walker has been the problem that's followed his career, has been injuries. He's always banged up and he's always trying to play through them. It's never season enders, but it's always, he'll stack up injuries throughout the year. He'll go from 100% to 90% to 80% to 70% until he takes himself out of some games and it just doesn't feel like the same player. If he can avoid that, if he could take less injuries throughout the year, which is, asking a lot of a player that always gets injured, but if he can somehow avoid all of that, this is not just a top 10 running back. I genuinely believe this. I think he could be top 5 by the end of the season. If he has a full 16 regular season games that he plays, or 17, if he has a full 17, he'll be in the top 5. He'll be one of the elite. He'll be one of the cream of the crop where everybody's like, I should have taken him. And you should have. Next up, we have Omarion Hampton. And, I've got a question. Do you think we can take nicknames of old NFL players and reuse them, repurpose them for new NFL players? Because if that's the case, we need to give him Doug Martin's nickname of the muscle hamster. I think he is a perfect muscle hamster. Omarion Hampton, the muscle ham. He's even got Hamp in the name. But this muscle hamster, honestly, I wasn't sold on him going into the season. Originally, I think a lot of people were more high on him than I was. But over the weeks, over the months, I'm going to be honest, I'm starting to see it a little bit. I'm starting to get into the idea. I like him as a breakout, and it all comes from the new OC, former coach Mike McDaniel coming in. Good old Mikey Danny. I think it makes all the sense in the world when people compare him to Devon Achane, not specifically as a player, but as far as a workload, as far as a 3-down running back, both as a runner and a pass catcher. I think that's absolutely possible. We were already seeing it last season in certain games, even when the run game wasn't working amazingly. They were getting him involved in the passing game a lot. He was getting 5, 6, 7 receptions a game. That is a lot. In PPR, that's an absolute monster. That's a guy that can be one of the best running backs of the year. I still worry about the middle of that offensive line a little bit, especially since they lost their center for the year and how badly they were ranked last season. That concerns me a little bit. But at the very least, you have a running back that can run through people. He's a tough, physical runner, which you're going to need in these scenarios. I think he looked a little bit better as the season went along as a runner. He started to look more comfortable going into the second year with all that the offense is working with. This could be the best 3-down running back they've had since Prime Eckler. This is shades of Prime Eckler we might be seeing this season with Omarion Hampton. But still, be a little cautious. When you're drafting, remember, stick to the Charger rule. And what's the Charger rule? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And finally, there's Deshaun Stribling, which I'm going to be honest, kind of the only reason I have him here is because I missed him on my sleepers video and I feel bad. So I decided to put him in my breakouts video, even though a sleeper is a little different from a breakout. But let's see what we can do here, because he really is moving up very, very fast, very quickly. He is going up to, I think, around double-digit rounds now, 10th to 11th round. And to this day, I don't know why most people forgot about him for most of the offseason. I know some people aren't a fan of the 49ers and how they develop skill players. I know others weren't especially impressed by the tape that they saw of what he looked like in college. And I wasn't especially impressed either, but you know what I was impressed by? The draft pick. He was one pick away from the first round. And nobody treated him like he was a near first round drafted wide receiver. But I was also a fan of the opportunity. I knew he was going to have massive opportunities going into this season because everybody gets hurt all the time on the Niners. All the freaking time. It never stops. Literally, the greatest superpower you can have on this team is staying healthy, because then the rest of the team will look at you in practice like you're an alien to them. They're like, whoa. How did you do that? You can catch a ball without breaking your leg. Ricky Pearsall's down and out. George Kittle is recovering from an injury. Mike Evans is probably going to get injured. And the same goes to Deebo Samuel. Like, the best ability a player can have is availability. And as long as DeJon Stribling doesn't catch the injury bug from all these other guys, from this virus going around, then he's going to be okay. And it certainly does help that he has performed well in the preseason. He's been targeted a lot, and he's been making some decent catches, some good catches. Last preseason game is showing a connection with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy went out of his way to target him a lot because he knows he'll probably have to get used to that throughout the season, and he wants to build up the chemistry. And I think that's a great idea. If he can play like Juwan Jennings and get sort of like 5 catches a game, maybe get some touchdowns every other game, then he will be one of the better value picks of this season. He is a sleeper, he is a value, and in my list, he is a breakout. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to support a simpleton like me, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. God bless, and I will see you all next time.